We have my good friend that is joining us. My friend who made me into a meme. I'm gonna get you back for that one of these days.
No, no, nonsense.
How you doing, Misty?
It's a great meme, Nick. Come
It
on.
is.
It is a great meme. And it was honestly completely just like random. I was making buttons actually for an Assange rally and I forgot my scissors. So I paused it real quick. I was watching you guys on the big screen. Uh, and I walked in and got my scissors and I came back and then there was your face. And it was just perfect. It was perfection.
Yeah,
It's great.
I like it. It actually grown on me very quick. At first, I was like, "Oh no, I cannot believe it. I'm a meme, and my friend did it." Like, and the thing is, I know you didn't. I know that wasn't your intention. You was like, "Oh, this is
No.
funny," but it's funny though. I like it though.
Yeah, it's a good reaction. And then Jay put up his too. Did you see the one that he has?
Which one was that?
I don't know. I posted them side by side. I can find it. But yeah, his is funny too. I think everybody should make one.
Yeah, I'm a big.
Your own little reaction.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of having fun. That's what I'm all about. I hate the no fun leftists, the people that can't even
Ugh.
laugh at themselves and have fun, super uptight. So I can laugh at myself. I think it's pretty funny meme.
Yeah.
But I brought you on. I appreciate it because this is like last second. I like hit you up. 'Cause I saw your message. You was like, I'll give you $100. Y'all talk about Julian
Seriously, I
Assange.
will.
I'm like, you don't have to pay me. I'm
No,
like,
but like it's like it's a win-win for me because I get to support my friends and you guys. And I figured you would talk about Assange anyways, but
yeah, I hear you. I
I
hear
mean,
you.
it's important and it's something that's not getting talked about enough at all, ever. Oh, it's so frustrating,
Yeah,
Nick.
the thing is, I try to talk about it, but then there's always that part of you like, am I bringing this up enough? Like that's all that always go in my mind. Like I want to
No,
make
it
sure I
is.
talk
It's
about
hard.
Assange, because obviously it's a giant issue, especially someone who is starting on the path of becoming a citizen journalist. Citizen journalist. I mean, I'm just a guy who shares stories. I don't buy into this elitism, and there are a lot of like DSA clowns. Like, oh, you gotta be like Harvard educated. I think if you can tell a story, I'm blessed with a platform. You're blessed with a platform. Anyone who's blessed with a platform who can share a story is a citizen journalist. We need to stop with the elitism of thinking that
Yeah.
only certain people can be protected. Like that's an argument I actually hear against Julian Assange that never makes sense. Like people will say, "Oh, he's not a journalist."
It doesn't
What?
matter. It doesn't matter.
That doesn't
The First
matter.
Amendment applies to literally everybody: teachers, firefighters, doctors, lawyers, babysitters. The First Amendment applies to everybody. And what's amazing is that Julian Assange isn't even an American citizen. So we want to charge him under our laws, under our Espionage Act. But he's afforded none of the protections of such. And that's what, like, wanting to have your cake and eat it too. Like, you don't get to say we're going to charge you under our laws, but then Mike Pompeo even said out loud that the First Amendment doesn't apply to Julian Assange. Well, why doesn't it? If our Espionage Act applies to Julian Assange, why doesn't the First Amendment? He's not an American citizen. He's an Australian journalist. He's never lived in the United States. WikiLeaks isn't a United States publication. It never has been. And so this is the United States seeking global jurisdiction over information and journalism. And like, you need to let that sink in because that is what's happening here. And that should terrify everybody. The United
Yeah.
States does not need to have that much control over narrative because that's what they feed you. And, you know, being able to hold them accountable and expose them is 100% necessary.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, and for the new viewers that are watching this, and maybe people that are not too familiar with your particular activism, there's two things I want you to explain. First, give a very broad overview for people who are still getting caught up, like why the case against Julian Assange is so important for journalism. And then the second part, I want you to explain like how you got involved and the current action you're doing with Assange. I see the work you put out there is very impressive. I love people that actually put in the work. So those are the two things I want to propose to you. Like give a broad overview of why Julian Assange and advocating for that is so important, and the action that you're doing right now in order to advocate for Julian Assange.
Okay, so I could rant about why this is so important because it really is.
That's what my
I
show's
won't.
about.
I know. I'll try to keep it
Yeah, I
like,
know it's a big,
you
I
know,
know it's
in
a big
check.
question, but go
It
ahead.
is. It really is. But here's the best way I can explain it to you is this will be the first time that a journalist is charged under the Espionage Act. This sets a very dangerous precedent. I mean, people will often say, yeah, but what about Edward Snowden? And I 100% support Edward Snowden. I think that he should be allowed to come home. There should, you know, he should have like a key to some city or whatever. Like he should be, you know, looked up to and admired for, you know, telling the truth. But, you know, the fact that we are now going to charge a journalist under the Espionage Act is that sets a precedent that's really scary. And, you know, it's also people try to get like really caught up in the smear campaign. There's been like a decade-long smear campaign. And I really need people to realize that this isn't about Julian Assange. And, most of what's been said about him is, obvious bullshit. That he's dirty and that he doesn't take care of his cat and that he's, a rapist and a hacker and a terrorist and all of these things. Like they've tried to smear him, for over a decade now, and dehumanize him. Really, they've turned him into like a comic book villain. It's like either you don't know about him at all because mainstream media never covers it, or you have heard of him and you think that he's like this like weird comic book, like Dr. Evil, not even Dr. Evil, like like a James Bond villain or something. And it's not, it doesn't matter if he is all of those things. He could be the worst person on earth, and what is happening to him would still be wrong, and it would still be worth fighting against, because this is the future of the First Amendment. It's the future of press freedom. It's so much bigger than Julian Assange. I know that sounds like dramatic, but that's real talk. This will set a precedent over journalism. And, listen, it doesn't matter what you're fighting for. If you're fighting for, healthcare, if you're fighting for, the environment, if you're fighting for education, if you're fighting against police brutality, if you're fighting, whatever you're fighting for, you can't fight effectively if you cannot disperse and consume information, right? You have to be able to put your side out there, to plead your case, to get people to change their minds and support your cause, and you can't do that without a free press. And they really are trying to just establish full control over everything that you're allowed to see, think, hear, read, know. You know what I mean? Like we're really in and again, I know that sounds dramatic, but it is that dramatic. We're very close to losing everything that the First Amendment stands for, and it's not just, you don't just see it just with Julian. That's like a glaring example. But you see the anti-protest laws that are popping up all across the country. I have 4 in the state of Ohio right now that are in our state house. You see it with like the anti-BDS stuff, or all of at protests now, journalists who are covering like Black Lives Matter protests or whatever are getting detained. They're getting photographed. They're like to show their IDs. They're being told that they're being tracked. They're beat up. They're gassed. They're all of the things that you're not supposed to do that. And it really is setting a very dangerous precedent that we're seeing kind of manifest all across the board. And so I don't know. I know I just went off like on a long ramble, and I do that, and I'm sorry, but
no, that's perfect, because I'll try to not make the assumption that people are like the same place we at. So I didn't want to like jump right into the side. I want to let people understand why it's so important, why I always want to advocate for that, because I'm on page with you. Like our First Amendments are directly under attack, and not only just the freedom of press, they going after your right to protest, and a lot of different states. I think I remember I saw you flagging there was a story where you can't even film cops anymore with your cell phone.
Yeah. In Ohio, there's another law. Yeah.
I think I saw you tweet about that. I didn't look into it, but that just, to me, I think that's another example of crackdown on rights.
And people will say, yeah, but the Supreme Court struck that down. And yes, maybe they did, but that doesn't mean that they're not continuing to try. And every time they try, this is manufacturing consent. Like this is how it starts. They'll start, trying to propose these laws that have been struck down by the Supreme Court, but they do it over and over and over again. And eventually it becomes kind of this normalized, oh, well, maybe that's a thing that we should be doing. Obviously, if they're going to bring it up this many times, maybe that's a thing we should consider. And then they do it. And that's what's scary. We have to be ahead of this. You know what I'm saying? And we're really, really, really behind. They're about to charge a journalist under the Espionage Act and put him in ADX Florence for 175 years under special administrative measures, which is essentially solitary confinement. He's being tortured now. He's been tortured for 7 years, at least 7+ years. And he's a journalist. He exposed war crimes, you guys. Like he's broken more stories on corruption and, just unbelievable, I think he's probably broken more stories and exposed more bullshit than all other journalists combined. I don't think
never had to make a major retraction, haven't they?
Never. They've never a retraction, period. They have a 100% record of accuracy. Tell me another news organization with that kind of record. It doesn't matter what you think of Julian Assange. And what's great, I'm rambling again, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But what's great about WikiLeaks is that it's not conjecture. Like it's not some like pundit on TV giving you his opinion about the story that just broke or whatever. They offer you source documentation, like 100% verifiable, authenticated. It makes journalism as much as a science as it could possibly be. It's here's the information, you do with this what you will. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that seems like a very valuable thing that we have, just hardcore evidence about, again, like things like war crimes or the poisoning of civilians or torture. I mean, Guantanamo Bay, giving names to victims who were otherwise, just completely erased. Khalid al-Masri was a CIA torture victim who was picked up under just being misidentified and taken to some black site and tortured for months. And Julian Assange gave a voice to him. And that's the kind of things that they've exposed. And I'm not trying to deify Julian Assange or WikiLeaks, but if you don't think that what they represent and the service that they've provided to us is valuable, I don't know how to have that conversation with you. Because to me, that stuff's invaluable. The people in charge are proven terrible people. I don't think that's
the worst
dramatic.
Of the worst.
They're seriously, we elevate just absolute turds, just horrible people to positions of power. I want them to be held accountable. I want them to be exposed. They should be on a very short leash. I always say this, people, like regular people, we should have a ton of privacy, and they should have none. And it's flipped. They know everything about you. They know what size shoe you wear, where your kids go to school, what cereal you eat, where you shop, where you buy, gas or whatever. And they can commit literal war crimes, and we don't know what they're doing. And that should be reversed. We need to reverse that as soon as humanly possible. Sorry, rant again. I don't even know why I was talking about that.
That's perfect, because there's so much disinfo on Assange, and the whole Julian Assange case. That was one of the things that exposed liberals so much to me. One of the things that you guys are blatant hypocrites on, because I remember during the Trump years where they was falsely trying to pretend that Trump was having an attack on the press that was somehow never seen before. And I'm like, you guys are backing Trump's attack on Julian Assange.
He said mean words to Jim Acosta, Nick.
Yeah, I was just about to talk about Jim Acosta he made a big thing about talking about Trump's freedom of the press. Then he was asked about Assange. He was like, I don't know about that. Now Assange, that's a different case. So these people are always exposed by these issues. I think this is one of the things that there's a blind spot in the liberal establishment. And now even to the point where we had there was a bombshell story. And now there's been a corporate media backlash because a key witness in the Assange case was caught fabricating evidence and lying about the Assange case. I'm assuming you know a lot about that. So you want to break that down?
Oh, okay. So this is just another, and seriously, a long line of just complete case destroying revelations, right? This case, they have nothing. They have nothing. It is a garbage case. It is a political case. It is it's non-existent. But okay. So this guy named Siggy Thordarson, who was a low level volunteer for WikiLeaks in 2010. He did some fundraising stuff. It was contracted by the FBI to lie about WikiLeaks in exchange for immunity. This is somebody who is a career criminal. In fact, he was convicted in Iceland, which is where he's from, of why am I blanking on the word? Embezzling. Sorry. Oh, lost the word. Embezzling over $50,000 just from WikiLeaks, which is funny. But he's career criminal, convictions for fraud. He's a convicted a child molester. He's a diagnosed sociopath. He was the key witness in the case against WikiLeaks or the case against Julian Assange. And he recently gave an interview to Student, which is an Icelandic magazine, where he not only admitted to making all of that shit up in exchange for immunity from the FBI, but gave proof of it, chat logs and stuff like that, which is just another just destruction of this case. It's bullshit. There's no The key witness just admitted that he lied, and dude is still in prison. Like, he's still in a supermax prison, and they call it the UK's Gitmo. And the key witness just admitted to completely making all of that shit up in exchange for immunity. And this is a guy who then also admitted to ramping up his crime spree after he received immunity from the FBI. And this is a convicted child molester.
They always get the worst people.
Yeah.
The FBI informants, it seems
They
like.
gave immunity to that guy to get Julian Assange. That's amazing. And he's still in prison. And mainstream media is not talking about it. And forget like everything else. Y'all, this is a huge story. Like, if you're a journalist, this is massive. I mean, bombshell. Rachel Maddow loves her bombshells, right? Get it, girl. This is a bombshell. It seriously is like the complete destruction of the U.S. prosecution's case against Julian Assange again, but probably one of the biggest examples of it being so. But it's amazing, and there's nobody's talking about it. It's unbelievable. Well, it's believable, but it's annoying and frustrating and infuriating.
Yeah. My friend Caitlin Johnstone was talking about this.
I love her.
Yeah, she's brilliant. I love her writing so much. Now, I always tell people how the United States is the most propagandized country in the world, and I can break this down in many ways. And so the first objection people will say, well, what about China, North Korea, and all them? They know they're being ran by state TV. Like, there are people that watch Rachel Maddow, people who watch our news that think they're getting straight up, non-biased information. That's not the case. But what I see right now is a trend, and she pointed out, she's the one I got this from, where there's a new trend where our media, they have such a monopoly on the center of information when they decide not to cover certain things. And by the way, by omitting stories and by not covering stuff like, for example, I covered the ICE forced detention stories, ICE forced hunger stories. Like, these stories they're not covering. They rather just not. So that's in itself journalistic malpractice by pretending that doesn't happen. Because what liberals do, I would talk about something. We would talk about important stories. We talk about U.S. war crimes. We talk about corruption in the highest order. And then they'd be like, where's the source on that? Then you post source, it'd be from the Gray Zone or it'd be from whatever independent news. They're like, oh no, that's not real news. You guys see how the game works? So they don't talk about real issues. So then in order to talk about the real issue, you gotta get your sources from independent news. Then the liberal-minded people, they will discount that news. So it's a form of propaganda. And that's what they're doing under the Biden administration. They're not talking about none of these important issues, and that ties into Julian Assange, where this revelation should have been all over, like, literally, because this is a giant case in journalism.
It is. It's just a giant case, period. Like, it's a historic court case on press freedom, period, end of story. It is the first time that a journalist will be charged under the Espionage Act. That is a story. I don't know, like, if there's much bigger in terms of, that kind of a story. It doesn't get much bigger. It will be the first time that, I don't know why that's a controversial thing. You should be covering this. And I'm not saying, because people, every time I like bring this up, that people aren't covering it. Oh, well, what do you just want them to drop everything and only talk about Julian Assange? No, I never said that. I've never once said that. But if you can't even cover it, like, just mention it, or hell, just tweet about it, for God's sake. Like, if you're a journalist and you're not talking about this at all, and I have to beg you to even mention it, and then you block me, because a lot of the times that's what happens, that's weird. Like, that's a very weird thing to me, on multiple levels.
You know what I think it is?
What?
Because and all about this, all about the army of the DSA plants, and their only role is to defend politicians. And this is the problem with AOC, the Squad, and Bernie that I discovered over the past this last year. They keep the Overton window on the right on very important issues. And I do think they advocate for some important things, like Medicare for all. That's a good thing to advocate. That's good. Yeah, we can talk about that. But there are some, like, I'm with you on that. So they advocate for some good things, but then they purposely don't advocate for crucially important things, like Julian Assange. So we have been attacking, at least I have been attacking, I think you have done it as well, AOC and Bernie, because I think their silence on Julian Assange is
it's disgusting.
That's very revealing. Like, that was one of the things I'm like, even back in the day while I was more sympathetic to Bernie, you remember those days, but even those days I was like, dude, that's I was like, this is a giant black, like, even back then when I used to like Bernie, like, yo, that's a That's a
I
giant
remember when Julian
black mark.
Assange was pulled out of the Ecuadorian embassy, somebody was saying something. I said, somebody was saying something about Bernie making a statement. And I said, this is where he's going to lose me forever. Cause I was already done with Bernie at
Yeah.
that point. But I was willing to, not ride hard, like, go as hard at him as I do now.
Hmm.
But that was it. Like, that's it.
I don't
Silence
blame
is
you.
complicity. Silence is complicity here. You don't get to like turn your back on this. This is, again, an incredibly important thing. I can't stress it enough. This is the destruction of the First Amendment in broad daylight. They're doing it in broad daylight. And some people are cheering this on. Like, you have progressives cheering for censorship and cheering for people being deplatformed and cheering,
Exactly.
like AOC using her email list to like, hey, if you see people on Twitter posting disinformation about me, you should go mass report them. That's
Wild.
insanity. That is insanity that's a thing that's happening. And that, like, the left cheers that on. Like, I must have had like this romanticized idea of the left, because I always thought like free speech and all of that stuff was a very lefty position.
Right.
And it's not. I mean, at least not now in the Western left. It's not at all. I mean, these are the people who are cheering it on. You have AOC saying she has concerns about Julian Assange. Are
Yeah.
you joking? Concerns about Julian Assange? I get that people fall for the propaganda, but there's no excuse for a progressive congressperson to not be able to get this. It's not complicated.
Honestly, that's one of the things that opened my eyes. I was like, how? I was thinking like, even when I gave him more benefit of doubt than I should, I was thinking like, how are you guys getting this wrong? Like there's no doubt in my mind that AOC and these people are smarter than me. Like, AOC smart.
Right?
Like, there's no doubt that she understands. If I understand this issue, AOC understands this issue. Like, my criticism of AOC has never been her intelligence. I think people are wrong on that. I think anything she does is calculated as hell. And when I see her not talking about this, I'm like, bruh, what is that about? Now, my original point was, I see people smearing Assanges. I see people go after you. I see people, like, trying to make it seems like advocating for Julian Assange is a bad thing. And that was tying those two things together. I think those two things are related, because we have a legitimate criticism of AOC and Bernie that they can't handle. So then they went to the right, when all of a sudden they attacking Assange. And then I literally see like these same DSA folks, I see them like attack Assange and use the same smears, the debunk smears that you bring up.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is.
It is. And it's really depressing. It really is. And I don't give a shit about people coming at me or whatever. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I know I'm right on this. I don't
Yeah.
claim to know, like, I'm right about a lot of things. I'm like, I'm growing and learning just like everybody else. But this is like an obvious thing that we should be fighting against. There's no question about it to my mind. And again, I understand that, like, the propaganda campaign, it's been a decade long. They've been very good. It's very sophisticated. They've been able to plant stories about certain things, and it's all been debunked and retracted, but because it's so pervasive throughout the narrative, it sticks and it works on people. But yeah, it really is. I don't know. This is
It's one of the things that
deal.
really alienated me from the Western left, and I have a ton of criticism of Western left. Now, I was playing it earlier today. They've been an all day live stream, so I was playing it to the new audience now. People, I call out the weak Western left, and people are like, aren't you part of the weak? Are you part of the Western left? No.
No.
What power have black leftists have on the left? What influence have black leftists had on the left? We had the entire left vote for Jim Crow Joe, despite the objections of black
Captain
leftists.
Crime Bill.
What influence do black leftists have? None. The only black leftists that you guys do listen to, even some I like, they gotta have a fucking PhD from Harvard. They gotta be the first Harvard professor, Dr. Cornel West. Brianna Joy Gray is another one they listen to. She's a Harvard graduate, isn't she? I don't know her whole life story, but I think she graduated from Harvard. I think. I don't want to get it wrong.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But my point is, not to get her life story wrong. My point is, the only time they listen to black people, you gotta have like a elite academia for us to be to even be listened to on the left. So if I had my way, we wouldn't be in this position right now. Like, so when I say the weak Western left, I'm talking about like the managerial class that's been in charge of the left for a very long time.
There's a very distinct divide. And I think imperialism is another piece of it. What you call the weak Western left, they do not care about foreign policy. They do not care about imperialism at all, at all, at all. It doesn't bother them. They don't talk about it. I mean, AOC deferred to caucus leadership on a coup, and they were like, it's no big deal. That's, to me, I want no part of that kind of a left. None. It is non-negotiable. I am anti-imperialist, non-negotiable. We're not even having a conversation about it. To me, it's weird that that's an acceptable thing on the, quote unquote left. No, this is, I don't know what that is or when people thought. And here's the thing. Here's what really happened though. Bernie Sanders convinced a lot of people that they're a lot lefter than they actually are. And they're just hipster liberals. Like they're people who, kind of want healthcare, but not really enough to actually fight for it. They like that. He made it like cool to consider yourself left, and these people aren't left really. It's hashtag-y, like it's all about a hashtag and stuff. And I don't think that they really intend to fight for anything. I think it's kind of like a social club sort of environment.
Misty, what if Rashida Tlaib get 10,000 likes on a tweet? What would that do for your family? LC got 100,000. LC hit, I think she was like 150,000 likes on her tweet against Marjorie Taylor Greene. What would that do to your family, though?
They're arguing over who's taller. Like, are you joking me right now? And this is the thing we're concerning ourselves with. And like people will make excuses. Like, I love it, Nick. I love it that they'll call like you and I fashion enablers. Like we like to not like collaborate with Nazis, right? You all support AOC, who is voting to fund actual Nazis in Ukraine. She voted for Joe Biden. She gaslit you for Joe Biden, who is a like racist, fascist piece of shit authoritarian. But you're gonna you think you have moral standing to tell? Are you joking me? It's like they are completely incapable of intellectual consistency. It's everything is fine when their team does it, but it's it's bad when it's the worst thing ever when the other team does it, and they have absolutely no ability to does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, because I used to think the left wasn't like what I thought of the left, especially during the time I was canvassing and organizing Bernie when I had a really high opinion of them, was I thought they wasn't tribal. I thought they didn't worship politics. That was my perception of the left. This left I'm referring to is now what I call the weak Western left, because I realized there's two different kind of left. There's a left I thought that was real. This is the people I try to associate myself with now. They're the Hampton Leftists. These are the people like yourself who focus on foreign policy. Then I realized there is this very distinct class divide on the left. I come from a poor working class background, still don't make a lot of money now. And then there's the privileged bourgeoisie managerial class left. And they're the one who actually called the shots. They're the one who set the direction of apparently what our left has done, what they do for the most part. Because I say this because as it is right now, they're the one who had the most influence. So when people say, "Oh, you part of what?" No, I'm not. Like you guys are not following our lead, because I'm not seeing you guys talk about foreign policy like that. Like the same people who attack us for going after their favorite politician.
AOC is not left. AOC, I don't know why that is even controversial. Are you joking me? She's not left. That's what I mean.
Someone asked me before on one of my questions here. They said, how will you define a leftist? And I said two things to make it very simple. You gotta be anti-capitalist, and anti-imperialism. She's not anti-imperialism.
She's not anti-capitalist.
That's a good point too. That's a good point too.
She's not.
That's a good point too.
She's not.
Yep. I hear you.
She's not a leftist. She is at best a centrist, and people are like, yeah, but that's in the United States she's considered a leftist. Okay, well, we need to stop defining our left by that metric, because that we're not going to get anywhere doing that. I am not willing to accept somebody like AOC as somebody who's left. And I hate labels, but that's just ridiculous.
I mean, once again, I keep it simple, and then we can dive into it more, like what it actually means to be anti-capitalist, But I'm saying even that broad, very narrow.
I think those are two. That's a great answer.
She still feels that, and and I didn't want that to be the case. I was tweeting during November. I showed you tweets over and over again. Well, I was like, "Yo, I'm upset with Bernie and the squad, but we never seen them under a Democratic Party administration. I wanted to give them benefit of doubt and to see what they do under Democrat." Now we see. Like I said, so people can't get mad at me because I gave them plenty benefit.
You were very nice.
I call it how I see it, but I still was like, I give them another chance here. But now I think they had way too many chances. They've had
way too many chances.
Way too many chances. like I've been done with them, but the second they was complicit with funding the police more, that's when I was like, all right, I'm already done with you, but I'm going to scorch her.
Okay, so here's the difference. Here's how like quick I was to turn when AOC said nice things about John McCain. Done.
Oh yeah, that was one of the red flags.
He's an example of human decency. I'm sorry, what?
and she didn't say nothing about Mike Gravel.
No. Oh my God, it's so gross. Yeah. You guys.
So she says, you like, I'm glad you brought that up because she says she gives John McCain a tongue bath, but she says nothing about the anti-war hero.
Who read the Pentagon Papers into the Senate record. Do you have any idea how courageous that was? Like the dude was physically and emotionally exhausted and terrified. Like he's given interviews about it. He could have gone to prison right then and there. He had no idea what was going to happen to him. And he read them into the Senate record. That deserves an unbelievable amount of praise. And she has not got one word, but she wants to call John McCain an example of human decency.
Yeah, and I always try to think about these things because I try to see past what they try to sell us in politics. Why wouldn't she say anything about that? So these are the questions I ask myself. Mm-hmm. Why didn't she? Did she get an email? Did someone told her not to? So if someone told her not to say anything and she listened to them, what does that mean? Like,
or does she just not stand for those things, and so she doesn't support Mike Gravel?
Yeah, maybe, that's a good point. Maybe she just disagreed on the substance.
Because she's an authoritarian, she's an imperialist, she's a capitalist, and so she stands against actually everything that Mike Gravel stands for. And so why would she mention him? Really, that's not. She doesn't. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's really what it is. People are going to get mad at me for saying that, but that's the truth. She is an imperialist. She is a capitalist. She is those things. She's not Mike Gravel. She's convinced you that they're on like the same level or the same. Dude, I wish I was wrong. Honest to God, I wish I was wrong about Bernie. I legitimately do. But I'm not. They're not your friend. I mean, unless you are, a neolib centrist who's okay with incrementalism and making excuses for people in power who do absolutely nothing with it. If that's your jam, I'm not here to kink shame. But I'm not interested. Like these people, people get mad because I focus on progressives. These people. The Republicans never promised you anything, Bernie Sanders took millions of dollars from millions of people and then walked off the field twice after like being openly cheated. And he still won't even mention it, won't talk about it. AOC and the squad, they shouldn't have even been considering voting for Nancy Pelosi. Force the vote shouldn't have even been a conversation that could be had because they would have already been like, nope, we're not voting for Nancy Pelosi. And the only way we will is if we get not just a floor vote on Medicare for all, but like a laundry list of stuff in advance. And then we will vote for Nancy Pelosi. And that's how you politic if you want to get your shit done. They could have done that. They had that level of power. And even if it, like, let's say it doesn't work or whatever, who cares? You at least tried. What happened to bringing the ruckus? What happened to being a one-term congressperson so that you could make a difference? They made
that salary and then that shuts that up real quick.
And that should infuriate you. Like if you're a supporter of theirs, that should infuriate you that they turn their backs on you like that and aren't doing the things that they promised that they were going to do. People are dying. People are suffering and they're playing the game. They're getting magazine covers and going to brunch with Auntie Nancy. And y'all make excuses for that. And it's weird to me. I'm sorry. It's weird to me. I'm done with people suffering. I'm done with like bombs being dropped on innocent people and, Flint being poisoned. And I'm done with all that shit. I'm done. Amen. Like we need to start holding them accountable so that we can actually change those things. Amen. Sorry, rant again. Damn it, I'm very ranty tonight. That's perfectly
said. That's exactly what we want to do on our show. It's all about ranting. I gotta bring you back on because, like I said, we can break down this issue for so like we can do this all day. And I appreciate
I could rant with you all the time.
Yeah, because I do appreciate you coming on. Big props to Misty here because I kind of like hit her up like super late notice.
I'm always willing to talk Assange. Honestly, if I can make it happen, I'm there.
Yeah, so I appreciate you joining us. Now we gotta end this because we almost went over. I don't want to get in Meg's way because Meg. Will be
Meg's
next. Make
awesome.
sure you tuned up. Where can they find you? Where can they find you, Misty? I want to plug you, and then we can pass the baton to Meg. Where can they find you,
I'm on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I have several shows, Facts on the Ground, which I do with Jesse Zerowell. I have Bitch with Comrade Misty, which is on every Wednesday at 7. And then I also co-host the Action for Assange online vigils that we do twice a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays. So you can find me. I'm pretty sure I just remembered all my stuff, and usually I forget something. And I'm proud of myself. Yeah, so that's all my stuff, I think. But mostly Twitter. I'm there all the time. It's like where I vent. So yeah, it's kind of unfiltered me.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why we had to have Misty on. She's one of my good friends on
Yeah, I
Twitter,
love
and
Nick.
we gotta do this again because, like I said, there's still so many things I want to talk about, but we only had an hour today. We gotta do this again very shortly.
That's all right. Yeah,
Anyway,
anytime.
check out Meg next. Man, it's been a long day. I'm glad that you guys enjoying the FHL July 4th marathon, and make sure you check out Misty as well. Sign off, guys. Thanks for watching.